Welcome back to the Screensavers. Earlier in the week, we talked to the old school hackers with a K, Kevin Mitnick and John Draper. And now, of course, they don't do any hacking anymore. We thought we'd talk to some younger guys who are in the middle of it now, actually still on the side of the white hats, the hackers of today. Our next guests are members of the security development team, w00w00.org. We've met them all before on the show, except I think Joshua is new.
Joshua.
Matt Conover, Jordan Ritter, Joshua Bronson, right? It's good to have all three of you. You're all at WooWoo, but WooWoo is not a company, right?
Nope.
WooWoo is a loosely knit organization of what?
Security researchers.
Okay.
No official organization or structure.
Is security researcher the new term for hacker? What do you think, Jordan? You're laughing.
Matt's got his own opinion.
All right, what do you think, Matt?
I do think there's a difference between hackers and security researchers.
Okay.
So I think we might enjoy doing this sort of thing, but we don't actually apply the vulnerabilities or things like that we find to companies.
You guys find exploits. In fact, I found a couple of really big holes. Most recently last week, a big hole in the Microsoft products on the Apple platform. And thank you for, we put it out as soon as we saw those that's great. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about hacking. Have any of you hacked in the sense, you know, the traditional sense of kind of dark side, kind of having a little fun breaking into systems, that kind of thing? I think you can tell the truth.
I think all good hackers start somewhere
Is that
across
true?
the line.
Really?
Somewhere. I won't
That's
say
how you-
far over, but
Snooping around, maybe seeing if they can get into a secure area, things like that.
Yeah, it's an exciting thing. Exciting, you know, sort of pulls people into that, sort of the dark side and the interest of doing something that's sort of taboo.
How do you start? Do you start doing that kind of thing on your own, or is there a mentor? Is there somebody you meet who says, hey, you know, did you know you could do this?
There's definitely, I think, a mentor culture. Like
Yeah.
most people, you know, there's also a lot of text. There's a lot of reading to be done, especially on the internet. You can find any number of texts or, you know, online books or whatever.
Now, we're not talking about script kiddies here, but somebody who really knows what he's doing or she's doing, has to be smart. This is not an easy, trivial thing to do. How did you start, Matt?
Well,
How old are you?
I'm 19.
He's 19. You're the youngest of the
I'm the
three.
youngest.
Okay.
I'm the
So this
youngest of every.
Of everybody. Well, and you look younger than you are, so people even say, he's 13 years old, and already the guy is just a whiz kid. So you're 19. When did you start playing with computers, and when did you start kind of trying stuff that was a little beyond the pale?
I started with computers like 11 or 12. I started with security maybe about 14.
14. Now, a 14-year-old is not going around saying, well, let me see how I can help corporate America solve its problems.
Sure. You made a comment about script keys, and I think in a sense everybody starts as one. Everybody starts running other people's programs or things like that. You might have programs, simple programs that'll let you crash your best friend's computer, or little
bitch slap them.
you
things
start
like
out
that.
in the script kiddie arena first.
Yeah.
And maybe you start to understand how they work,
Right.
and maybe you even find some things of your own.
Right.
Yeah.
Port sniffing, a little bit of that. What happens? Well, let's talk about port sniffing, because that's kind of something anybody can do. You download Nmap or something like that. Then what do you do, Jordan? Once you find an open port. Because I'll tell you the reason I ask. Everybody now is running Zone Alarm or some sort of firewall, and the first thing you experience when you put a firewall in is, oh my gosh, all these people are sniffing my ports. What are they doing, Jordan, when they're sniffing your port?
They're just watching traffic fly by.
They're seeing what's there.
They're seeing what's there.
Are they breaking in?
No, there's a significant amount more effort that needs to be put forth to get into a box. But this is sort of a gray area where people define watching as being breaking in versus actually physically taking over a box as being breaking in.
Would it be fair to liken it to rattling a doorknob to see if it's locked?
Absolutely, yeah.
The difference is it's not illegal to do that.
Well,
but when you
absolutely.
open the door and stride in,
No, that's a gray area for the government. Rattling the doorknob is
They say it
often
might be-
considered.
really?
Yeah.
Huh. All three of you have gone beyond rattling doorknobs, so I would take it. Joshua?
Maybe sometimes. I've played games with my friends, sort of capture the flag stuff.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and there's an accepted that we both agreed to the fact that we were trying to get into each other's systems.
They're participants. They're not. Yeah.
With friends, who have DSL and whatnot.
That's a
and
kind of
sort
good way to handle that natural interest in doing this kind of
It
stuff.
is.
Say, well, okay, let's see if we can hack each other.
And another thing is actually, if you have the resources to set up machines yourself,
Right.
and just break in your own machines,
Challenge them.
and that
Yeah.
way you're not breaking any laws.
What skills do I need? Do I need to be a C programmer? Do I need to know assembly code? Do I need to be a Unix guru? Where do I start?
All of the above.
All of the above?
Yeah.
I don't think you need those to be a script kiddie, but I think
Because you're running somebody else's program.
Well,
That's
you don't even have to know how it works.
Push button hacking. Yeah.
when you start to go beyond that, you're going to need something.
Where did you start? What did you learn C first?
I learned C first.
Yeah.
And I learned C in Unix, and there were a lot of related tools on there. And so then once I had the C, I wanted to start to look at the code of the tools and understand what they were doing.
Right.
That was what I found sort of.
Ultimately, are you a network expert? Is that kind of the key skill for all of you?
There are different domains. You can either be good at understanding the security of the system or understanding how networks are structured and how to exploit them.
I asked the old school guys this. I'm going to ask you. Greatest hack you've ever heard of? Let's start with Joshua.
That's a really tough question. There's of course the mythical ones, done by the guys who were on here last week.
Yeah, pretty amazing
Mitnick's
stuff.
hack has to be probably one of the most
It does rank up there.
notorious, at
Right.
least.
right.
Notorious
Anything that
hacks.
impresses either you, Matt or Jordan?
Not anything that I can talk about.
All right, maybe we'll talk about something you would have liked to have done but didn't do when we come back. Stay put. So much more, including to come. Morgan taking us through the Windows XP firewall, such as it is. And up next, Matt, Jordan, and Joshua will be back to tell you how you can protect yourselves from the hackers. They are security experts. Let's take advantage of their expertise as the Screensavers continues. But first, Megan, I guess not. Welcome back to the Screensavers. We're talking with the new, I don't want to say the new generation of hackers, but some young guys who know a little bit about all that kind of stuff. Members of w00w00, a security development team. We've got Matt Conover, Jordan Ritter, and Joshua Bronson here in studio talking with us. And understandably, all three of you guys aren't going to come on national television and say, oh yeah, well, I broke into the White House last night. And I don't blame you for doing that. But I think it's important that we be honest about this. People do this kind of thing, and it's almost a natural tendency when you first get into computers, isn't it, Matt, that you kind of want to try this stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's 13 years old, where you were 6 years ago and looking at this stuff?
Even in the group we have discussions about this, and the thing that really always kind of kept me away from it is when you look, for example, right when I was first starting to learn, this is when Kevin Mitnick was still
at large.
Yeah, and so you see these kind of people that get banned from computers, telephones, for a number of years, and you think, would it be worth that if I was no longer even able to play games or those sort of things? And
don't do the crime unless you can do the time.
Really handicap what you've been doing or all that you've been learning if you have to stay away from a computer for 5 years.
Was it a good thing for you guys to channel it into looking for exploits and then publicizing them? In other words, helping people by saying where the holes are? Is that a valuable, you think,
Absolutely.
Jordan? Yeah.
Well,
you get the same thrill.
I'm a huge fan of full disclosure, first of all.
Well, now this raises an issue, and I'm sure you guys debate this. Microsoft would like you, and I'm sure they've told you this, just shut up, tell us about the holes, don't tell anybody else about the holes, let us fix them. Where do you guys stand on that?
We tried that approach this time around.
This time around with the Macintosh, the problems with the Macintosh applications.
And I would like to protect the users. I don't want people. If I was to have just found the bug and just released it the next day, which I easily could have done, then no doubt there would have been someone who would have made a malicious program, and then tons of people.
Right.
Probably my mom would have gotten hacked by it.
Something to remember.
Yeah,
Mom,
right. I don't want my mom to get
friends.
a virus and have it be my fault. So.
Right.
So I would, I
So
wanted
what
to
was
make
the process? You went to Microsoft?
Well, it's actually sort of, I contacted Microsoft in January initially.
So 3 months ago.
4
months ago.
4 months ago. And there was some internal miscommunication there. Apparently, the person who first fielded my query, because they have an alias that you send an email to, and it actually goes to lots of people, sort of didn't really know what I was talking about. And I had to keep explaining what the problem was, and he just didn't seem very technical. And that's actually when I went out and I did sort of an anonymous, not an anonymous posting, but I didn't say what the problem was. I said, here's my situation. I'm dealing with a large vendor. I have this problem. And that's when I actually got in touch with these guys.
So that's how you actually became a member of w00w based on this particular case.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then,
so you found it on your own?
Yeah, I found it on my own.
How'd you find it?
Just sort of doing. I initially found it in Internet Explorer, the application.
Well, what were you looking for? I mean, how would anybody find these?
There's a number of things that happen in one program problems, you can often find them in other programs, right?
Things like buffer overflows.
Buffer overflows of certain types. So there've been a lot of overflows discovered with file globbing.
Yep.
Which is pattern matching,
Right.
like star.
Yeah.
So I was just sort of sitting there with the browser and just putting strings in, you know, really long, literally, that's what I did. And I found one, and the browser all of a sudden just went poof and just disappeared. And I was like, hey, that's it right there.
It's all about exploring.
Yeah, playing with the stuff. But you're looking for a hole.
Yeah.
In your case of all three of you guys, you're looking for a hole to set for security reasons, to tell people that, hey, there's a problem here. Do different vendors have different responses? Microsoft has an email address. They have a security site. They seem pretty receptive. Your case.
They were very receptive once
they
the
understood.
communications were solidified.
Yeah.
And also when I got in touch with these guys, they brought their backing into it, and no one had really ever heard of me.
w00w00
right?
is a name now,
Yeah.
Microsoft, because of the past.
So they paid much more attention when
Yeah.
I contacted them together with Matt and with w00w00.
It's a new world. In the old days, Microsoft, I think, really wanted to shut this stuff up. They realize now it's not going to go away. It's something that needs to be publicized, and they've kind of taken a new approach to security. Bill Gates' big speech saying, this is job one. That's a good thing.
Well, let's hope actions match the words.
We'll
Yeah.
wait and
So
see.
I do certainly think what they're doing relative to some companies is great. You know?
And are there companies that are just not responsive at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to name names, or would
No.
you? Really?
We've had problems with some very recently, and
Okay.
I think we'll continue to have problems with the same companies.
That worries me as a consumer, because it means there's a hole there that nobody knows about.
It should.
Somebody else, not as ethical as you, finds that hole. That could be a problem, right?
This is exactly what you're talking about protecting mom and your
Right.
family and your parents.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's one of the ideas behind full disclosure is that there's a lot more situations where the vendor would rather not have people know, and so by sort of forcing the issue, giving them a reasonable amount of time to address the issue, and then when the inevitable happens, you release it.
Right.
Then there's a case for, well, I am trying to enforce some protection for my friends. and
If
people
you
around me.
don't say something about it, if the vendor doesn't respond, you've got to say something about it after a period of time. It's fair to give the vendor some. So let's not name names. You don't want to name names, but there is a vendor out there who's not being cooperative on a particular issue right now. How serious is this issue?
This is everything behind full disclosure. This is a huge issue.
So there's a problem with a major program that people use all the time?
Well, we're not singling out any one, but there's many.
You guys are so cagey. You're afraid of somebody coming in. Now, we were going to have Adrian Lama on to talk, who is another hacker who has been very active lately. In fact, most recently, he broke into the New York Times site and added his social security number to the payroll. And again, in a kind of a white hat way to demonstrate this is not a secure site. The feds are after him, though. He is in a little bit of trouble.
A white hat methodology at all.
No.
That's not the right way to go about it. And we don't know where Adrian is, and he didn't show up. So we're a little concerned. Adrian, if you're watching, let us know that you're not incarcerated. Hey, guys, it's really great to have you. w00w00.org is the website.
That's right.
Just briefly, as an end user, is there somewhere people should go to keep track of? Is BugTrack the place to go? Is that where you'd recommend? SecurityFocus.com.
Yep.
That's our friend Kevin Polson's site. SecurityFocus.com. Kevin's involved. I know a lot of people. That's great. All right. And we thank you guys for coming on and talking.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's very interesting stuff. And you just saw kind of, I guess, the tip of the iceberg. There's stuff going on all the time, and I wish vendors would be a little more responsive. And frankly, if I were, these guys are a little nicer than I would be. I'd probably out a few of these guys. Matt Conover, Jordan Ritter, and Joshua Branson, thank you for joining us. To find out more about w00w00 and who they are, I love their name and their accomplishments. Check out our website at thescreensavers.com. Does w00w mean anything?
No.
It's just a happy sound. All right.